Surviving a recession, that's a hell of a depressing topic to be given after the Microsoft guy who shows all this great whiz-bang. Although I was thinking as you were telling that story about my kids, and I never thought I'd be the kind of parent that says, you know what, if you don't listen to me, I'm taking away your computer. Weird world we live in. So I'm going to try to cover this notion of surviving a recession as best I can. And let me state at the beginning, obviously, there's no single solution for it, other than not doing anything is clearly not a solution. Let me take a second and do a brief intro on Thomson Reuters, because I was asked by one of the other speakers, that's great, who the hell are you guys? Perhaps we're the world's youngest old company. The names, Thomson and Reuters, come from the historical Reuters Corporation that I worked at prior to the merger, which is obviously a 150-year-old media and financial services powerhouse. And Thomson Corporation is a many decades-old Canadian company that focused on a variety of things, including newspapers back when they were profitable and growing, and got out of them before they stopped being that. They were in travel, they were in oil and gas, and now the combined company, Thomson Reuters, focuses on intelligent information for professional audiences. What the hell does that mean? Well, that means information that people pay for, which we like. That means information that's focused on people's workflow, which means they like it. And it's information that helps people both save money at their firms and make money. So from an enterprise perspective, they like it. Let me take a second, if that works, and continue my intro about the company. We're not small. We did $13 billion in revenue last year, and we continue to grow our top and bottom line despite what is without a doubt the worst economic environment I've ever managed to work in. And I assume everybody in this, unless there are people who are survivors of the Great Depression, which feels like we're reliving right now. We're bigger from a revenue perspective and from a growth perspective than all the companies up on this slide. From growth, again, these are all fantastic companies, and Unilever is one of our vice chairman's ex-companies. I don't think likes when I show this slide. We grew faster than all these companies last year, despite the fact the financial markets completely melted down around us. And lastly, from a cash flow perspective, something that the banking sector learned, once again, why it's a banking sector and that cash flow matters. We produce, not unlike some of the other larger companies in the world, prodigious amounts of cash flow. And we do that because of our subscription base and the fact that usually people pay us in advance, which we like a heck of a lot. Now, the vast majority of the world knows us by the Reuters brand. That's what I run. I run our news agency. And I also run all of our publications, Reuters.com, IFR, Project Finance International. But where we make most of our money is not in the traditional media sense. We make it in mining the verticals, in mining the niches. And if there's one thing, I guess, I'd like you to take away from my talk today, and I'm sure the questions Chris is going to have for me, is that we're fundamental believers that broad is good, broad is nice, broad is entertaining, but the money is in the verticals. And the money is in being extraordinarily deep with your audience. And whether you're talking about professional information or entertainment, I don't think it's any different. And if I think about advertising, or I think about a professional workflow that has no advertising, it's the same issue. How do you get immersive? How do you get deep? How do you have your consumer, whether they be a lawyer, whether they be a derivatives trader, whether they be a general interest news consumer, a doctor, etc., how do you make them pull you closer to them? That's the real question. That's what we focus on. That's what's driving our company. That's what's keeping us recession-proof, if you will. So as we think about it, we have a variety of different audiences. Obviously, I have our media audience, which is the world's news professionals. I have 30 million people that come to Reuters.com around the world in English, Japanese, Chinese, French, German, et cetera, but more importantly, we have a huge financial audience that spends hours and hours a day with us. We have a huge legal audience. We have a huge tax and accounting audience. We have a huge health and science audience. And as those industries continue to globalize, we're going to be continuing to move our footprint out and work with them. And in the same way that Darren was talking about the digitization, we fundamentally believe in globalization of information and globalization of professional workforces and globalization of workflow solutions. So, if you will, and to steal a line from the old President Clinton, the first one, as opposed to what Hillary wanted to be the second one, it's about the audience, stupid. It always has been. It always will be. And I think a lot of the media owners have lost sight of that. So when we think about our audiences, we like them because we provide them excellent products in niches. We don't always worry about the broad. We focus, again, on the niche. We like them, and we focus on them because they trust us as a result. They trust our news. They trust our data. They trust our references. They trust what we aggregate, and they pay us for it. And lastly, and what's interesting to me, one of the reasons I'm here today is that's great across all of these various vertical markets. But when I look across them horizontally, what I find is the world's most affluent, the world's most influential, the world's most dedicated audience I could possibly imagine. And one of my challenges in running the media business is, with a B2B news services play on the one hand, how can I bring to the advertising communities and the marketeers these incredibly rich, interesting professionals in a different way, in a way that matters in their workflow and in a way that matters for the advertisers. So here endeth my commercial for the firm and kind of where I'm going.